Mr. Patel, are you part of an organization that uses market power for censorship?
No, sir.
And how much advertising capital do you deploy annually?
How much marketing investment do we spend?
Yeah.
$850 million a year.
Woo, that's a lot.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay?
You did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious Jew.
I'm
That's
sure
true.
there's a genetic component.
You found me out.
Orientation.
Busted.
The view of all religious people I know
Ben
has always
Shapiro,
been that
busted,
sexual behavior
buddy
is something
boy.
that is-
I asked what uncommon collaboration is, which is from your working charter, GARM's working charter. And Mr. Rakowitz defines uncommon collaboration as rising above individual commercial interests. I thought a company was focused on their commercial interests of their individual company.
Sir, GARM is used for a framework and definitions to try and make order of something that quite honestly had no order to begin with.
An anti-Trump election rigging operation was discussed today in Congress. A lot of spotlight been shining down upon it there in Congress lately. We have Matt Gaetz, who was there asking questions from this CEO and others who were involved in an organization called GARM, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. If you don't do what they want you to do, then you're not responsible. You're irresponsible. So they had a big hearing today, and Matt Gaetz was saying, why did you guys specifically target Trump ads back in 2020 by saying, we're not going to advertise with you, Facebook, unless you do something to remove those ads? The Judiciary Committee released a full report on it, and Jim Jordan was also there asking and inquiring as to their collusion. So just to set the tone, set the scene, here's what Matt Gaetz said. And he was there asking other people about their operations and how they spent their advertising dollars today in Congress.
Mr. Patel, are you part of an organization that uses market power for censorship?
No, sir.
And how much advertising capital do you deploy annually?
How much marketing investment do we spend?
Yeah.
$850 million a year.
Woo, that's
And
a lot.
You said less than 1% of that in the news area, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's because really your brands don't want to be involved in these caustic news disputes or political disputes. They want to be apolitical in the presentation of their brand. Am I understanding that testimony correctly?
So we serve 90% of American households with our portfolio.
It's a fascinating answer, just not to my question. Is the reason you de-emphasize news because you want to be apolitical?
We target our investment to address the consumers that buy our brands.
Okay, are you doing so for political reasons or apolitical reasons?
We don't do it for any political reason.
Okay, so then why are the vice presidents of your company trying to shape the way Facebook limits view of a Trump advertisement?
So I'm not sure what the intention of that communication was, but that's
I do.
not...
It was to get the Trump ad taken down. It's pretty clear. You had two vice presidents, Rob Master and Luis DeComo, who were pressuring Facebook to utilize Facebook's policies to take down a Trump ad. So it's just hard to believe that your goal is to avoid politics when, like, not some intern at your company, but the vice presidents at Unilever are writing Facebook saying, we want you to take this Trump ad down and apply these policies to do it.
So I'm not sure what the intention of communication was, but
Okay,
that's...
I'll tell you what, I'll read you the communication. It's two words. It's your vice president to GARM when they were trying to get the Facebook ad taken out. It said, honestly reprehensible. So you're using this $800 million plus power that you have over the marketplace. Facebook is craving your advertising dollars. And you have two vice presidents hammering Facebook to take down a Trump ad about whether or not Joe Biden should have his ear inspected for an earpiece. That was what the ad was about, that you all found so reprehensible.
So respectfully, I'm not sure that word was done by a Unilever person.
Okay, so Mr. DeComo didn't work for Unilever?
He sits on the, if I did my homework right, I think that came from the GARM, Rob.
Oh, Rob Rankowitz, yes. But you are member entities to GARM. You pay GARM. You guys are GARM. I mean, as Mr. Jewell said, you guys have to have tools in order to help you place your ads. So you go fund GARM, and then your vice presidents are commiserating with GARM over the fact that Facebook won't remove this. I guess, Mr. Shapiro, when we look at these big advertising platforms and they're hearing the people with the advertising dollars hammer them with this ideological tilt, what does that do to the marketplace for ideas?
Obviously, it shuts down the marketplace of ideas, which is largely the intent. And one of the things that I've heard from some of the Democratic members of the committee today is an extraordinary amount of projection. Projection wherein they suggest that Republican members of the committee are trying to shut down free speech by trying to get answers to questions about the kind of political pressures that are being put on social media companies, for example. But it's been Democrats who, for years, have been spending their time trying to pressure social media companies into doing their bidding by limiting the types of information that are available to the public and how that information is actually distributed. One of the things that's worth noting here is that it's not just a matter of advertising dollars flowing. The way that it works on social media is that if you are demonetized, then the reach of your actual content is also limited. limited by the same social media companies.
Do you
who
think
obviously
the
have an interest.
frequency of those demonetization rises when you have vice presidents of companies at Unilever trying to hammer entities like Facebook into taking down Trump ads?
Absolutely. There's no question that when you have internal pressures put on social media companies to take down right-wing material, that has an impact on the reach of right-wing messaging. There's just no question.
And I guess I don't mind when Democrats say they don't like conservative speech, or we get to say we don't like some of their speech. That's how this works. But it's when the business community colludes and utilizes market power to shape the way social media companies or websites disseminate information that the public doesn't even get to see that debate and engage it. And I think the fact that it's clandestine is actually even more corrosive to the values that undergird.
That's absolutely true. The complete lack of transparency with which GARM treats both the member companies as well as the consuming public is one of the major problems. If they simply wish to levy a boycott against a right-wing source, they should simply say that's what they're doing. Hiding behind fake standards in order to project objectivity is a major problem in transparency for the market.
Man, Ben Shapiro is one of the smartest dudes you'll ever hear, and he's also a wizard. I don't know if you guys knew this, but if you can see this, he's got a floating water bottle right next to him. But let's take a look at what the Judiciary Committee has ultimately submitted in their report. They put together an amazing tweet thread that details what GARM is and how it works, and we're going to jump right into it right after I share this quick message with you from our friends at Ground News. Take a look at this story I found about Attorney General Merrick Garland's whining, calling legitimate criticism against his office attacks on the DOJ. And with all the misinformation out there today, you may have missed this one. I'm looking at this on Ground News, an awesome website and app that combines related news from all over the world and political spectrum into one place. You can check them out by going to ground.news/RGE or just click the link in the description below. Ground News has been an excellent tool for my everyday research when I'm prepping the show, and I think it will be for you too. Let me show you how it works. Here you can see over 10 sources are covering this story, and that more coverage is coming from the left and the center than on the right, which makes sense. We can also see the difference in the headlines, with outlets like CNN repeating Garland's claims while the right calls him out. But not all stories are equal. Using their blind spot feed helps you identify what the media is and isn't covering on either side of the political spectrum, and helps you catch stories that you may be missing. Ground News is amazing because it helps you see what friends and family with opposing views are seeing, and with the upcoming 2024 elections, this will be very important. It's super easy to get set up. Just go to ground.news/RGE or click the link in the video description below. If you sign up through my link, you'll get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use to get unlimited access to all their features. I think Ground News is doing important work, and I hope you'll check them out. Visit ground.news/RGE. And now let's take a look at this tweet thread from the House Judiciary Committee, which tells us everything we need to know about GARM. You can see here, they say how they are controlling online speech utilizing their advertising dollars. And they're going to do this to rig the entire election, just like they did last time. Shut up and stop advertising for Trump, for Republicans. Suppress those stories. It's like going to people's houses and ripping yard signs out of their front doors. It is election rigging. They're all going to say, well, it's my private enterprise. And so is that the new standard now? Your private enterprises, as long as they're a private enterprise, they can rig elections. Is that the type of democracy we live in? Or is that a fascist state that the Democrats constantly rant about? But anyways, here's what the Judiciary Committee wrote. They said, corporations and ad agencies and associations through GARM, they participated in actions to demonetize creators and people. And so they went around. It was formed by the World Federation of Advertisers. They claim that they're going to be protecting brand safety. But just look at this. This is why it's so powerful. Some of these charts are wild. So WFA members combine almost $1 trillion in global ad spend. That is so much money. That's a lot of super chats, man. And GARM includes every major ad agency holding company in its ranks. Hundreds of ad agencies are included. The world's largest media buying agency is in its leadership. Look at all these people. Now, you wouldn't recognize most of these probably. I don't. But there is a lot of companies on there, all mega advertising conglomerates, all under control of some unifying body. They all have to adhere to GARM protocols, and if the GARM people hate Trump, well, they all comply. It's like the conductor of an orchestra, just telling them all how to operate, and they all just buckle because they don't have any independent thought because they're NPCs. GARM members, they colluded to go after Twitter. Right after Elon bought it, they went bananas. As of early November 2022, Danish energy company and GARM member Ørsted, they contacted GARM here to discuss the Twitter situation. Oh no. Rob, that guy we just heard about, says, "Hi Rob, I'm reaching out to ask you if it's possible to arrange a meeting to hear more about your perspectives about the Twitter situation and a possible boycott from many companies." The Twitter situation. Oh no, someone else bought bought it. They don't control it. GARM surveyed its members about Elon. The survey would give advertisers the confidence to pull their ad campaigns. So they said, well, here's how we can handle it. Here's another email from this company over to this company. It says, hi again. Can you please advise me on the latest updates about Twitter? Or perhaps you have a place where I can read more about your perspective on Twitter as a platform after Elon Musk bought it. It says, based on your recommendations from Orsted, we've stopped all paid advertisement because the platform was rather unsafe due to Elon. He fired a lot of resources. It's an important platform for us to reach our audience though, so we'd like to go back. We just need to know whether or not the platform is safe for us. Rob Rakowitz, who leads GARM, denied organizing a boycott, but he did take credit for Twitter's revenue decline. He says, yeah, this is good. You know, I did some tweaking on the edges to help contextualize who we are and what we're doing on your memo. But I'd like to point out that nowhere in this email is the you may recognize my name from being the idiot who challenged Musk on brand safety issues, you know, since they're 80% below revenue forecasts. Like, don't refer to me as that guy who dropped Elon's revenue by 80%. He puts a cowboy hat on, right? Because these are little communists who just like to take out their competition. They want everybody to be under the thumb of the government and the communist orchestrators. But if you then lose control of an entity, they have to destroy you and bring you back to heel. So that's what he's very excited about that. So he's knocked down Twitter revenue by 80%. Now, GARM went beyond brand safety. They also went after Joe Rogan. Punks says a GARM steer team member accused Spotify of supporting Rogan. They said it's anti-vax misinfo. Why? Spotify said we should have different opinions there. That was the comment from Joe. The GARM steer member who had issues with Spotify was Joe Barone of Group M. Group M didn't even buy ads on Rogan. So Barone said so himself. So there wasn't any brand safety concern at all. So this other group's just like, we just don't like Joe Rogan, okay? He's like bad for vaccine misinfo. And they're just little dictators. They appear to have wanted to silence Rogan's views anyways. So this guy just sends an email. He's like a Karen. Joe Barone Karen, aka Karen from E Group, says, hi, can we discuss this steer at the next steer team meeting? Spotify guidelines are pretty spotty at best. Pun intended. Pretty spotty at best. Hilarious. Get it? Spotify has spotty guidelines. Hilarious, Joe. Well done. Managing partner for Brand Safety Americas. And he's got a Rainbow Group M, whatever that is, and a Black Lives Matter in his email signature. So Joe Barone, he sends this out from Joe Barone. He says, yeah, this afternoon we addressed the Joe Rogan misinformation issue with Spotify. Their position was laid out by so-and-so and so-and-so. Acknowledged that they reviewed the podcast in question and approved its airing. So that Joe Rogan has a little censor committee he also has to get through. This was not a case of misinfo slipping through the cracks, okay? They also acknowledged that they are in a learning and development mode. They're in the process of updating their content policy, so it's not so spotty. We noted that Group M does not even buy ads on Joe Rogan, and therefore we had no client exposure, so this ad group. However, we pointed out the fact that our clients are concerned with human safety and supporting platforms that enable harmful content. So you see that? That's a threat right there. That's our clients know that we advertise on Spotify. So Group M supports a bunch of liberal freak show groups, and they say, Joe Rogan's on Spotify. He's got an exclusive deal. Are we advertising on Spotify? We are. Maybe they can do something about Joe Rogan. And so they're using their leverage to just shut Joe Rogan up because they're little censors. Joe Rogan's right. They were wrong. So Joe Barone with the rainbow and the BLM signature and probably pronouns in there is calling in his little Karen. Can you censor Joe Rogan, please? He makes me uncomfortable. GARM attacks disfavored outlets like Breitbart, Real Daily Wire, Fox News. We got demonetized for 9 months after January 6th because we were harmful and dangerous. We had medical misinformation strikes from YouTube for stuff that was proven right later. It's like, wow, that was right. Like, okay, thanks. Joe, like literally happened. Thanks for censoring that for us. Of course you know it's right. That's why they censored it. So Group M is a GARM member. They explained to GARM's lead how it monitors media it doesn't even support, like the Daily Wire. They monitor it to find something wrong. Their email below sums up their thought about misinformation. They say it's politically divisive content. Referring to Breitbart, Group M executives said that they hated their ideology and BS. So you have little censors. This is what they do. Could you imagine being a person like this? Could you imagine just sitting around sending emails like this all day? Gosh, get a freaking life. So this guy, John, sends this email to Rob and to Joe, and I don't see any, I don't know if they also have rainbow flags or BLM signatures, but I can't tell because looks like it's a mashup here, but it says, all right, you know, this is an interesting parallel here with Breitbart. Before Breitbart crossed the line and started spouting blatant misinformation, we had long discussions about whether we should include them on our exclusion lists. As much as we hated their ideology and BS, we couldn't really justify blocking them for misguided opinion. We watched them very carefully, and it didn't take long long for them to cross the line, but it was useful academic lessons. Now, I don't know the Daily Wire that well, but I would imagine that most of our clients wouldn't want to be on either side of politically divisive content, so they probably block them anyway. Is that true, Joe? But he should watch them carefully to make sure they don't stoop below the GARM floor. If we block the Daily Wire, why shouldn't we be blocking Fox News? All right, cut them all out. So it's conglomerates. They're creating their own money networks for the purpose of censoring political information. Now, the left will tell you all day long, it's private. They're allowed to do it. It's their own associations. If they want to do those things, they're free to do it. Then you ask them about democracy. And they say, well, it's a part of democracy. They're allowed to do it that way. You say, okay, that's interesting. So to classify news as legitimate, GARM approached organizations such as the Global Disinformation Index. And then they started to rank everybody against it. GDI claims it's neutral and independent, but docs reviewed by the committee show how GDI consistently disfavored conservative sites. We know how the pendulum swings on these things. Always goes back and forth. So if they're going to be doing this right now, there's going to be a reaction and equal and opposite force coming the other way. And Elon bought X, and we're watching. I think he's now agreeing with some GARM stuff, but we'll see. I think that there is credibility crisis with every one of these entities right now. So GDI lists publications like BuzzFeed News and Huffington Post as least risky. Really? BuzzFeed's not even around anymore, as far as I know. And the New York Post and the Daily Wire is the riskiest. The New York Post was absolutely breaking news with Hunter Biden, right? It was the most accurate newspaper in the entire country at the time. So all of these have lost their credibility. Washington Post is failing. New York Times is failing. They're all literally failing. And many of these others are, doing pretty well. So they call it risky. They call it the least risky. State-approved media is okay. Non-approved media is not okay. So this path and bias driven by GARM has put specific news entities out of business. What did Unilever flag to discuss? They flagged a video where an influencer gave Unilever a negative review of the shampoo. So GARM now is going after reviewers, going after influencers, right? It's a media cabal. Same thing the left always screams about. We want power of the people. No, you don't. You want everybody to just fall in line. So what happens when GARM and its members are able to influence everybody? It reduces competition. And so to learn more, you should read some of the report, which we'll do right now. The House Judiciary Committee releases GARM's Harm: How the World's Biggest Brands Seek to Control Online Speech and Censor Political Operations and Campaigns. This was released by the Judiciary Committee July 10th. Here's the executive summary on it. They say, Judiciary has jurisdiction to protect trade and commerce, unlawful restraints and monopolies. And so we're doing that right now. We are looking at the World Federation of Advertisers, and specifically its GARM initiative, a global alliance for responsible media. We know the background here. Large corporations and agencies all create that disgusting, incestuous web of collusion. And what that does is give them tremendous market power. WFA members represent 90% of global advertising spend, $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. GARM includes every major advertising agency, holding company in its ranks, including the world's largest media buying agency, Group M, on its steer team, right? So those emails were back and forth between Group M, the people who are operating that, moving that $1 trillion budget around. So much power there. GARM's steer team with the BLM and the Rainbows, which acts as a board of directors and is also closely involved in GARM's day-to-day operations, includes 4 large corporations: Unilever, Mars, Diageo, and Procter & Gamble. Billions spent out. Now, they don't engage in politics, of course not. They just don't want their ads next to Trump's ads. That's all. So take Trump's ads down. GARM reports that the executive committee, which must endorse GARM's work, includes tons of other people: AB InBev, L'Oreal, Nestle, IBM, many more. GARM calls itself an industry-first effort that unites a bunch of people, marketers and media agencies. And we want to reduce the availability and the monetization of harmful content online. They say they've got transparent policies and they don't support certain content. And so their GARM admits that content monetization and moderation are linked. In other words, their monetization work impacts what appears online. So GARM has this convoluted explanation for what they do, but we all know if stuff is not monetized, it doesn't get transmitted. Okay, YouTube has no incentive to show you a non-monetized video. They don't make any money on it. It just costs them server bandwidth. They've got a lot more incentive to feed you a bunch of ads or a bunch of videos that have ads in front of them so they can make a cut off that. And if they demonetize the content, they just kind of, it's on YouTube, send it to your friends and maybe they'll watch it. But for an organization reliant on this stuff, GARM appears to have anti-democratic views of fundamental American freedoms. Yeah, they don't care at all. GARM's leader and co-founder, Rob, has expressed frustration with an extreme global interpretation of the U.S. Constitution and complained about using principles for governance and applying law from 230 years ago, made by white men, this guy says. Rob Rakowitz, who's doing a disservice to that name, Rob, says says it was written 230 years ago by white men. With his worldview, GARM pushed what it called uncommon collaboration to rise above individual commercial interests. That sounds like just something that comes right out of Berkeley. Section 1 of the Sherman Act says unreasonable restraints of trade is illegal, and that's what these people are doing. They are boycotting and committing coordinated actions that harm consumers. For example, here's what they've done. Twitter and Elon Musk. According to one GARM member, GARM recommended that its members stop all paid advertisement for Elon. Their documents show that they were trying to arrange a meeting, talk about extensive debriefing and discussion. They bragged and put a cowboy hat on emoji, saying we nuked Twitter's revenue by 80%. They went after Joe Rogan. At the urging of its members, GARM and its steer team threatened Spotify. Rogan stated in an opinion, he said that young, healthy people don't need the jab. That was Rogan's opinion. Meltdown. GARM even admitted it was acting outside of its scope, said, well, they explained that brand safety is somewhat separate on Spotify versus a Facebook newsfeed, because brands aren't being slotted into the podcast. In other words, companies could choose, do you want to be on the podcast or not? So GARM had no reason to even interfere with Spotify at all, except they just are little censors who hate other dissenting views. GARM even admitted, they said, well, there are some antitrust implications here if we get caught. Rakowitz told one GARM member, yeah, we can't publicly advise all clients on what to do X. We can't tell them to do that. That gets us into hot water because we're anti-competitive and collusive. So we have to hide our collusion, which they did. To get around this problem, Mr. Rakowitz offered to help brands formulate a point of view one-to-one. So I can't tell everybody what to do. You understand? I can't send a blanket email in our newsletter that says, stop advertising on X because I hate Elon or whatever. Even as Mr. Rakowitz mistook his trade association members with clients, they weren't clients. Such a coordinated action implicates antitrust law. We also know they were targeting Fox News, Daily Wire, Breitbart News. One GARM steer team member candidly wrote that although we hated the ideology and the BS of Breitbart, we can't really block them. GARM pushes its members to use news rankings like the Global Disinformation Index, which I hope we're high on that list. I hope we're doing well. And disproportionately labels right-of-center news outlets as so-called misinformation. GARM and its steer team even participated in efforts to label a social media advertisement by Trump, by the campaign, as misinfo. Get his campaign ads off. It's like going to someone's house and ripping their yard sign out. When Facebook would not label the advertisement as misinformation, Mr. Rakowitz told a colleague that it was honestly reprehensible. A GARM steer team member expressed concern how Musk was exposing the truth regarding how Twitter was used to censor Hunter Biden. And obviously, that was an overtly partisan take. I can't believe Musk is saying that. GARM's plans for the future includes pushing its framework into artificial intelligence so that they can just censor you immediately. GARM's partners are developing AI tools which will integrate their standards seamlessly right into the platform. Your content just never goes anywhere. They'll just shadow ban it. It'll just, post it. You get a couple maybe fake bot posts or whatever, likes, engagement, but it's dead. Such an automated censorship effort could result in the demonetization of any views that this cartel dislikes. All this power in one entity is dangerous, and we know what that guy believes. You can see his email signature. The extent to which GARM has organized its trade association and coordinates actions that rob customers is likely illegal. Wonder if the DOJ will look into it. The information uncovered to date shows there is collusive conduct. They are demonetizing disfavored content. The committee will continue its investigation into companies that participate in this conduct and talk about legislative reforms, and we hope that they do. So, Stinky Eric Swalwell, who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy, was trying to talk to Ben Shapiro and trying to get him on a little gotcha moment. Didn't do such a good job because he doesn't have a brain either.
You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents would be proud. Mass deportations, it calls for that. Do you support that part?
I support the deportation of any illegal immigrant who's in the United States who is not of benefit to the generalized American public.
So if they're picking agriculture that puts food on the tables of everyday Americans, they've never committed a crime inside the United States, they didn't come across with documents, should they be deported?
If they have not paid taxes and if their draw on the taxpayer benefits are larger than the contribution they are making to the economy, or if they're involved in criminal activity, they should be deported.
How do we measure that?
The same way that the IRS measures my income every year. It seems like if the IRS can track down every aspect of every receipt that I've ever submitted, and
So
they
if they
can
were
do so for
willing to
hundreds
pay-
of millions of other Americans, they can do that for illegal immigrants as well, except for the fact that no one knows how many are in the country thanks to this administration.
So you would be cool with creating a system where they could pay those taxes if they wanted to and then stay and work and put food on our table?
It depends on how long it would take for them to pay the taxes, and they would also have to go presumably to the back of the line, although I'm not sure why I'm testifying about immigration policy at
Yeah,
this
we're
point.
here on...
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that that part?
All Project
I think that that's a
2025
state
stuff.
by state issue on a personal level.
I'm just asking you.
Sure. A fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage. What about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the
I guess it's like an Eric Swalwell podcast or something. It's like Ben Shapiro is just here. Is he like running for a judicial nomination or something? What's going on here? Why are we getting an interview? Eric Stinky Swalwell, just bring him on your podcast. Talk to Ted Cruz. He'll show you how to set one up.
government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
You to
From a
me.
religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
And
What else
how
do you wanna
about
know?
cutting Social Security? You support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025's position on Social Security is. I'm in favor of the restructuring of Social Security along the lines of privatization and lowering and increasing the retirement age, because you, as well as every other congressperson, knows Social Security is going to go bankrupt, and yet everyone seems to have an interest in lying
Ask
about it
another
for the next
question,
decade and a
Eric.
half
You
until
don't
we
even
have to
know
take
what to
austerity
say
measures
next.
or radically increase
Yeah.
inflation or taxes.
And bans against
ahead.
books about slavery. Do you support that part?
Go ahead.
Why would I possibly be in favor of bans about books about slavery? That would be
Good answer.
absolutely ridiculous. What I am in favor of is the idea that school libraries should be able to make decisions along the lines of what exactly is appropriate for, say, a seventh grader, whether they ought to be treated to cartoons and genderqueer. That's not quite the same thing.
And just because we found some receipts, you did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious
I'm
Jew. That's
sure
true.
there's a genetic component.
You
to
found me
sexual
out.
Orientation.
Busted.
But the view of all religious people I know
Ben
has always
Shapiro,
been that sexual
busted,
behavior
buddy
is something
boy.
that is up to you. And you said, I may have a desire to sleep with many women, but I do not.
I agree with
Good
me.
reading.
Yes, that's
Good
true.
reading there, Eric.
Congratulations
Well done.
on your, yeah. I'm sure it's very hard to restrain yourself. Mr. Chairman, I just
Eric.
want to shift to Alvin Bragg. He was supposed to be here
Sure.
this week, and he's not coming.
Yeah,
And Hunter Biden was supposed to testify. Now he's not testifying. We were supposed to have votes on articles of impeachment, and we didn't. And again, we're just wondering, you guys write great press releases, but the payoff seems to never come. And so I guess we will keep waiting, and we'll do hearings like this. And finally, Chairman, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, and that's a restriction on speech, as you have recognized before, but you can yell theater in a crowded fire, and you all can continue to do that all you want, and we'll just waste the American people's time.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I remind
Okay,
him
so
of the
Ben
first rule.
Shapiro treated him like his little sister. Well, what about that? And this is how this works, and that's how that works, and that's how that works. And any other questions, idiots? Why are we even talking about this? If you want me to come on your podcast, Eric, I'll come on your podcast, all right? Just relax. So shout out to Ben Shapiro for making Eric Stinky Bang Bang Swalwell, who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang a Chinese spy. We should have asked about that as well. Should have asked what his opinion was on his relationship with the CCP deep state. So that is what happened over there from Ben Shapiro, having some fun. And Jim Jordan also was there testifying. Here is a little bit of Jim Jordan and asking questions, rather, highlighting what was going on behind the scenes. So asking about GARM members, saying, why are you trying to watch them very carefully?
The same question. You're trying to tell me, I asked what uncommon collaboration is, which is from your working charter, GARM's working charter. And Mr. Rakowitz defines uncommon collaboration as rising above individual commercial interests. I thought a company was focused on their commercial interests of their individual company.
Sir, GARM is used for a framework and definitions to try and make order of something that quite honestly had no order to begin with.
Here's what it looks like, I think, in practice. Let's put up the email from Mr. Montgomery, who works for Mr. Jewell's company. Email about Breitbart, the Daily Wire, and Fox News. There's an interesting parallel here with Breitbart. As much as we hated their ideology and blank, we couldn't really justify blocking them for misguided opinion. I don't know the Daily Wire that well, but we should watch them carefully too. If we block the Daily Wire, why wouldn't we block Fox News? That seems to me like uncommon collaboration in practice, focused on three conservative news outlets. You see it that way, Mr. Jewell?
Respectfully, no, sir.
Well, how do you see it then?
I see this is somebody from our brand safety team, and he's asking questions about what sort of standards of service they have and trying to figure out what is happening with that particular publisher.
Well, let's
Why
put
do
up
you
the next
pick
one. Let's
them?
show some more uncommon collaboration in practice.
Did he do it for a bunch
Put
of
up the next
lefty
one.
groups?
This is the one about Twitter. Based on your recommendations, we have stopped all paid advertisement because the platform was rather unsafe. This is their opinion due to Elon Musk's decision to firing a lot of reasons. This is when Elon Musk bought Twitter. But it's an important platform for us to reach our audience, so we would like to consider going back. Looks like this was, a coordinated, uncommon collaboration to boycott Twitter. But this company wants to go back because they make a lot of money when they're advertising on Twitter.
All All right, Jim Jordan lacing into that. No, it's just regular business that we do there, just trying to make sure that there's brand safety for all of our advertising clients. And we just happen to be targeting a bunch of Republicans and Republican or conservative right-leaning side of this entire media landscape. They think that only one side should be under scrutiny while the other side can do whatever they want. And conveniently, it's all supporting their political ideology. So we're going to continue to cover this. We'll see if Republicans do anything about it. And they should investigate these people for collusion, antitrust, and all of the rest of the election rigging that they're responsible for. So thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for liking this video, because we have to deal with GARM. We have to deal with social media companies who are saying we are not authoritative. That's their own words. Non-authoritative sources get suppressed here. So the real way that we reach new people, the real way we share what's happening here is by your shares, by your invitations, and telling people you know and love about this channel. We got a great segment coming up next. It's going to be talking about the latest in Hollywood, because Biden is losing Hollywood. And so we're jumping into that segment next. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one.